7th edition of For the Love of Children is proudly brought to you by Kiddies Dom with the support of Y Crypt, Talk to Self, Body Safety Academy, Augustine Odanibo, Building Boys Academy, OnPad, Salma Private Schools The Safe Hands, FIDA Nigeria Enugu Chapter, Amaje Event Center, Nzapi, Agosil, and Afia TV. Thank you for standing with us in creating safer spaces for children.
I would want to start by saying thank you to the organizers of For the Love of Children. You know, it's interesting to see something start, but having sustained it for 7 years is a big deal. It's a big deal. So thank you so much to the organizers and to the other speakers that have made my job easier. You know, when you hear my topic, it sounds very gang. But after listening to them, I said, you know what? Let me just come and tell stories. You know, let's just come and tell stories and make it easier. Make it easier. You know, I don't want to talk about policy. That is difficult to implement. You know, the bottlenecks in the implementation of these things. God will help us. God will help us. So I'm talking today about parent-school partnerships in creating bully-free spaces. You know, like we would always say, the parents are the first educators of the children. The parents are the first educators of the children. You know, it's easy to see things happen, to see things go wrong, and everybody is blaming the school. You know, which school does this child go to? The blame goes to the school. But the truth is that the school cannot raise a whole child, neither can the home raise a whole child. There must be a collaboration. If the school is not working together with the home, then, you know, it will just look like I zip it up, you zip it down. I zip it up, you zip it down. We just keep going up and down. And this is why I would always advise parents, before you choose a school, before you decide on what school your child needs to go to, decide what your values are. Decide what type of child you want to raise. And then go to the school and ask questions. Find out what their values are. Find out what they believe. Find out how they intend to achieve what they believe. Because it's easy for people to come and tell you, oh, my mission is this, my vision is da. How do you want to do these things? They need to show you for you to be able to decide where your child would go to. So speaking about bullying, you know, and its effects on children, a lot of us are educators here, right? Do we agree that children that come from happy homes, seemingly stable homes, do better academically in school? Think about it. Think about it. Those children that will come to school and tell you how daddy beat mommy, and mommy was crying and daddy did not sleep. I see a couple of educators here. Please, do you agree with me? Why do we think that is so? Why do we think that is so? Have we also wondered why parents that often don't attend school activities or don't participate in their children's learning have their children struggling? It's truly, it's not one or the other. There has to be a collaboration. So when we talk about bullying, it's not something the school can do alone. Neither is it something parents can do alone. It's something that the parents and the school have to work together to do. You know, that is why we're talking about this collaboration. You know, growing up in a family of 6, I'm the 4th girl. First was a girl, second was a girl, third was a girl, fourth was a girl. I'm sure by the time they gave birth to me, you know, I always tease my mom and tell her, my middle name is Nkechinyere because Imago Nkechinyere. You know? Nkechukwunyere, no. You know? And you know, before then, she had 2 other girls that she lost. So I was typically girl number 6. So Ike Agugonia. So Nkechinyere, no. You know? Thankfully, after me, she was able to have 2 more boys. So imagine a family where we have 3 older girls, then you, and then 2 boys. I was nowhere. My older sisters they had bonded. You will not go and bond with the boys, so you're alone. And my eldest sister was quite mean to me. She would beat me, she would punish me, and it seemed like it was fun for the others because they couldn't even confront her. Of course, I'm not saying this to paint my parents black. They did the best they could with what they knew and with the resources that were available at that time. But just maybe, if some things were different, because in that scenario, in that house, in that environment, I was being sexually abused, but I could not talk about it. I couldn't tell my sisters, I couldn't tell my parents. In school, there was nobody to talk to about it. Scenario number 1. I said stories I came to tell you. Story number 2. I started my primary school in an elitist primary school. If you've ever lived in Onitsha and you know Roots Primary School, Roots Model, it was very elitist. Life happened, my parents had to come back to Anambra, and they still felt they were elitist, and they put us there. So imagine growing up in that school and getting to primary 1, and they realized they can't keep up with the fees, and they needed to send me to another private school. But, it wasn't that kind of school. And then you're coming there, you're overweight, because I was quite a fat child with my K legs, So you can imagine a fat girl, K legs, and she's not able to speak Igbo. It was horrible. The children will call me names, they will call me Orobo, and it was hurting because for every time I tried to play with them, and there were some games they used to play, I didn't know how to play. Then, Amaroma Boga, and that was the reigning play for them. And it didn't, I couldn't ball Oga, I couldn't speak the Igbo. So it was horrible for me. And trust children to make fun of you. So what did that do to me as a child? I grew up with 0 self-confidence. 0. I was that girl that in secondary school, when we're standing in assembly, I was often the tallest in my class. So when we stand in assembly, you see me standing like this because I don't want to be seen. I don't want to look taller than I just didn't want to be seen. So I would always slouch, I would always bend down. And then you now ask yourself, what if? Sometimes, there's this Igbo adage that says, if God didn't help me the way he did and when he did, I would have been quite a candidate for any form of thing. So in this case now, if I had help from school, it probably would have helped. If I had help from home, if my parents and the school were collaborating, they would have been able to help me. If there were conversations that were going on, but how could they collaborate when they've not even paid the school fees, so they are dodging so that they don't even come and remind them for the school. The matter tie wrapper. But okay, so what can the home do and what can the school do to collaborate and help us create safe spaces? Because the truth is that our homes should be safe spaces for our children. And what happens in those safe spaces? Our children are able to have conversations about what is going on with them. Schools should be safe spaces where these children have these conversations. What is the first thing we can do? The home. Of course, this applies to both the home and the school. The first thing is education. Education. Talk about it. At home, parents need to have this conversation. So it happens that in my house, I had my first child was a boy, second was a girl, and I told myself that I was done having children. You know how you finish deceiving yourself. And then I had baby number 3. And he happened to be a boy who clung to me for so long, very cute, chubby boy, clung to me for so long, for 6 years, Naba, I'm done, last born. After 6 years, I had another child, baby number 4, it happened to be a boy. But I now noticed that after I had that boy, the third boy, the second boy, now started becoming very withdrawn. And my first child is, you know him now, action man. He likes activity. He likes, let's get it going. But we noticed that his brother, we call his brother, let me forget what we call him, but there's this Igbo name we used to hail him. He doesn't like problem. He doesn't like problem. So he would want to play with him. He's not able to keep up with his pace of play. And then we noticed he was always shouting on him. He was always, and then I remembered what happened to me growing up. If we don't look back, we won't be able to change the future. I remembered what happened to me growing up, and I said, if this boy keeps shouting on his brother like this, and because he's not up to speed with his own speed, it will make him withdrawn, and we wouldn't get to know who this boy is. So what did I do? I called his brother. I called the first child, and I had to have a conversation with him. I let him know that you people are different. We're talking about education, right? I had to let him know you people are different. Your temperaments are different. You cannot be Ojemba. Okay, what we call him is Ojembe Enwilo. You call him Ojemba, he'll tell you Enwilo. So he said, you and your brother cannot be the same. But if you continue to do this thing you're doing to him, you will subdue him. And when you people grow older, unfortunately, we're a family of 6 girls. And it is in this, my 40th year of life, that my eldest sister now got to meet my kids. Very sad. Very sad. And my children would always ask me, Mommy, what of this your sister? We know you're what of... And then I'll tell him, you see this thing you're doing to your brother? If you continue, that is how you will be alone. Do you understand? Education. Let them know why they shouldn't do what they are doing. And that's how we solve that issue. So he will come and tell me, Mommy, I'm trying, but I said, Najisike, keep trying, Do you understand? And this is the same thing in school. Create awareness. Let children know what it means to bully a child. A child that is bullied, let them also know to talk about when they are being bullied. And it's often that when children go to report to teachers, I understand that teachers can be overwhelmed. You can be overworked. In a making mark, get 1,000 notes that are in front of you. One child is coming to tell you, Miss this child said that I am this. But that's the beauty of our calling as teachers. That's the beauty of our calling. We are able to multitask. We are able to listen. Do you know that instead of saying, go and sit down, or making the child's feelings seem insignificant, you could tell the child, it's okay, we can talk about it later. But is it the small thing you're crying for? Is it the small thing you're complaining for? You are killing the child. You are killing the child. So education and awareness, and this education and awareness is not, you talk about it once. No, this is something that the teachers in the class need to continue talking about. The other day, I was in my office and I saw a child, walking to use the restroom. And this is a usually very bubbly child. That's another thing. We need to be sensitive to our children. When you see a child that is usually excited, that is no more excited, you need to be worried. Then you see all those overly quiet ones, you need to also be worried. Because I grew up, of course, because of the circumstances that were going on at home, I was very withdrawn, I was very quiet, I was never able to talk. But you know how the abuse was a continuous thing, it wasn't a one-off thing. But every time I wanted to talk, every time, in fact, there was a time I as much as told my mom, she claims I don't tell her. I have no problems with that. And then she was like, woo, I remember. I was young, but I remember. So we must listen, you must observe. And now saw this girl and I called her and I said, what is it? Trust children. She didn't want to talk. And I said, what is going on? Of course, she's not a very academically bright child, but she's that child that if there's a dance, if you want to dance, if you want to talk, bring her in front, she will mesmerize you. So what we try to do is we try to amplify that strength, to see how she could do better in school. And then she tells me, because in school, when you teach and teach and teach, you try to do peer mentoring. So we put her in between two girls that are doing very well to help her and see. And then she now says, oh, how one of them told her she's impossible to teach. Woo! Imagine that thing wasn't found out. So of course I had to go and address it, address it with those girls, address it with the class, make sure they apologize to her and made it up to her. But we need to pay attention. Let me go quickly before they will tell me my time is up. The next thing, but you know the thing, I've realized that bullies don't fall from the sky. Bullies are made. Children become what they see. When we talk about bullying, all we think about is somebody beating your child. How do you beat the one in your house? Those helps. How do you treat them? How do you treat the security man? So because he's a security man, you talk to him anyhow. Then you see children that will say, my driver. Who is your driver? It's your driver. It's your driver. My driver, my house help. Who is your house help? When we raise children with this sort of mentality, they will now go to school and think that anybody that is not where they are is beneath them, and then they begin to treat them with contempt. Sometimes is what they have been modeled, what has been modeled to them. So we need to also look at the man in the mirror and ask ourselves, am I a bully? Sometimes we even bully our children. You want them to do something. Open communication. We need to learn the act of talking with our children and not just talking to our children. You ask the question, you answer it. Children don't come back before you have started beating. You have started beating. So many times, the reasons we get upset with our children is because we are not emotionally regulated to listen to them. A few Sundays ago, we went to church, and my 4-year-old, wandered away. They had to be where we were that Sunday. And then I called him and I said, we found him in church, and I said, don't go out again. And normally, if I tell that one, don't go out again, you wouldn't go out again. But I came back I now stepped to the back to do something. And I came back and I saw he was no longer where he was. We didn't see him inside church again. We now saw him outside the church. Of course, he came in and I used my finger and gave him some spanks on his hand. And after crying, he now said, Mommy, I want to tell you something. I said, what? He said, these children I was with outside, they have parents. I said, they have parents. He was trying to justify that he did not stray. And after that lecturing, that it's not every child that has parents. Not every parent is safe. After speaking that English, she still wasn't satisfied. He now said, Mommy, but I thought you were outside. Does it not make sense? But the natural African mother would have said, I've told you the first time, don't go out, you went out. I told you the second time, is it not bullying like that? It's bullying. Open communication. Let us learn to talk with children. These children did not come out to the world to frustrate us. They did not come to frustrate us. That you say, okay, mother, you will not, okay, no. Calm down. It's not a battlefield. They didn't come out to frustrate us. Because when we exhibit these tendencies, this is what these children go to school and they do in school. And then I also think that parents and schools should collaborate in this communication. When children behave a certain way at home, the school should know So that we know if I'm dealing with this at home, let the school be dealing with it. But sometimes parents try to hide. Schools also try to hide. So what happens when you hide injury or learn? It just gets worse. And then before we now know it, the thing is escalated. And then they now say, oh, the child does this. Let me give you an example. There was a child in school. Yes, there was a child in school, at the primary school. His parents found out he was a homosexual. And then, long story, eventually, it was his brother, who is now in secondary school, that introduced him to it. And his brother said it was a teacher in the school that they were in that introduced him to it. Do you know what saved the situation? Was that the parents came to school to tell us, look at what we found out. Imagine those parents hid it. And you know life can be very interesting. Do you know when they found out and they tried to trace who the teacher was that did it to that boy many years ago? I had hired that teacher. Tell you. This didn't happen in my school. This happened in another school many years ago. So when they now trace, they now said, that same teacher, you just hired him. Of course, the parents came, carried police, carried him. So imagine those parents hid it. Imagine the number of children. So do we see why open communication is important? So your child begins to exhibit some certain traits at home or at school. You notice a child has begun pilfering. Somebody drops a pencil, the child takes. Somebody snacks, gets missing. The school has an obligation to communicate with the home to make sure that these things are addressed at both ends, and then we raise whole children. The third thing is clear policies and expectations. Sometimes these policies are written because regulatory bodies insist that those policies are written, but nobody knows about it. The teachers don't know about it. The children don't know about it. The parents don't know about it. So why do we write policies if we don't intend to communicate those policies and break them down into little bits that teachers and children can understand? So if you say, oh, don't verbally abuse the children, some teachers here have been wired in certain way that not everybody can hammer, right? So simple things like, okay, so what we do in our school is we have the teachers write down affirmations. So we tell them, every teacher by your corner, write about 20 things you can tell the children when they do something good or when you're upset with them. Write it down there. In fact, in my children's school now, when their mantra now, so when a child upsets a teacher or upsets, their mantra is, when you're so upset with somebody, you now say, in Jesus' name you have life. So they came back home and I just kept hearing, in Jesus' name you have life. So you see somebody very angry at you. In Jesus' name you have life. It is important because sometimes those negative things are the only language we know. Because that is what we've been programmed with. That is what we've grown up hearing. So that open clear expectations. At home, Mr. Onyeka talked about it. Let the children know what is expected of them. Sometimes we have uncommunicated expectations from these children. You don't want them beating their younger ones. You don't want them bullying their younger ones. But we're not communicating. You assume that they know. We can't assume they know what they've not been taught. There's a rule my husband and I have, that before you punish a child for not doing something, make sure you've taught that child how to do it. Because many times our frustration comes from the fact that at your age you should know. How do they want to know what they don't know? That's why they're children. So our job is to make sure these expectations are clear. to the last point is to encourage empathy and respect. Encourage empathy and respect. Let us teach our children to think about the other person. Let us encourage them to put themselves in the shoe of the next person. You know, because these days it's so sad. It's so sad that it seems like we've lost every form of empathy. You know, last week Saturday when I saw a video of the fire explosion at 9 Mile, and I saw a lady that almost 90% of her body was burnt, and a human being was videoing. Didn't we see that video? And the lady was running and shouting, and you are videoing. I don't know, but you know, sometimes we tend to think that the problem is somewhere else when we are the problem. We really need to start looking at the man in the mirror. Empathy and respect. Let's learn to respect. You know, I tell teachers in school that children are deserving of respect. So you want to change a toddler's diapers, you don't just pull down his diapers. Communicate and say, please, can I pull down your diapers? It's okay. You think the child doesn't understand? The child understands. You're communicating respect. You're communicating respect. Sometimes as adults, we think, oh, because I'm an adult, I have the right to tell you to do what I want you to do. Then we forget to say please. We forget to say thank you. We forget to say I'm sorry because they are children. How do we want them to learn to say these things? How do we want them to learn? There has to be a collaboration. You do it at home, the school reinforces it. The school does one at home, the home reinforces it. If we want to raise children that have empathy and have respect, we must learn to show empathy and respect. You know, they will say respect is reciprocal. You know, one kind of respect is reciprocal. Respect is reciprocal, and children are deserving of respect. They are very deserving of respect. Then lastly, celebrate positive behavior. So be it in school, be it at home, the children do what they are expected to do, they are kind. Let's not always look out for when they do wrong, and then we're waiting to clamp down on them and say, oh, you've done. Technology is failing us. It's okay. Just give me a moment. You know, we can't just wait for when they mess up and then we go, oh, they've messed up, as if we were waiting for them to trip and celebrate when they fall. No. You know, it's important that we celebrate. Oftentimes, what you celebrate grows. What you celebrate grows. What you celebrate grows. So, you know, in trying to deal with my older son and, you know, with his brother, what I now started doing was, anytime I see him do something for his brother, I'll say, nah, well done. Or I see how you're trying with that mouth. I see how you're trying to help him do this. I see, you now see him trying to outdo himself in trying to do that thing for you because you've celebrated it. So this goes both to the school and to the home. Whatever we celebrate grows. So in conclusion, bullying is often a learned behavior and is influenced by various factors, including social dynamics, family environments, and peer interaction. However, it is crucial to recognize that just as these behaviors can be acquired, they can also be unlearned. Through consistent education, open communication, and positive reinforcement, parents and schools can work together to reshape attitudes and behaviors. By fostering environments that emphasize empathy, respect, and conflict resolution, we can help children develop better interpersonal skills. Ultimately, with dedication and collaboration, we can break the cycle of bullying and cultivate a culture of kindness and support, ensuring that future generations thrive in a bully-free society. Thank you so much.